Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is Thursday, May 9th, and we are on the cusp of the start of the European Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Swing. It begins this weekend at the Copenhagen Open. And I want to give a shout out to Zach, who is both emailed and is in our Multi-World Disc Golf Discord as a subscriber, who asked for us to do a European preview. And it was a great idea. I hadn't really fully comprehended that this was kind of like the start of the European swing, Josh. But hey, it's happening. And it's so much more robust this year in so many ways. There's actually a lot to talk about.
It's going to be a good time. I'm really excited for some of these events, and it was a great idea because it really does. I mean, you want to talk about geographic swings, like the West Coast swing or the Midwest, you got to talk about Europe. So it's time to hit it.
Yeah. And, as the U.S. Tour heads out to California for the West Coast swing, we have legitimately pretty intense tournaments that are going to start happening in Europe, and they only get more so as we get closer to July and the European Open, this year's major over there. So lots to discuss. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk with the DGPT Europe media director, Juha Kytö, who formerly was running, he's done a bunch of different things, European Pro Tour. He's been involved in media space in Europe for a long time as post-production and then in live with Disc Golf Stream. So we're going to talk to him. He's now working for the Pro Tour over in Europe, and we're going to get some of the facts about this season. So stay with us. Juha Kytö joins us next right here on The Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. They've got brand new double convertible Rufus colorways in charcoal and purple. So the double convertible takes the long pockets on the sides that can be zipped down and tucked away to transform into hall pockets if you want to kind of have bulkier stuff that sticks out, water bottle, things like that. Both sides feature pleated zippered pockets with Velcro patches, and when converted, reveal elastic detail pockets for cell phones or other quick access items. They also include an insulated insert to turn either converted hall pocket into a proper beverage Sherpa. That's what I'm talking about. So head over to pounddiscgolf.com, grab yourself a double convertible Rufus right now, and check out the charcoal and purple. It's beautiful. The Upshot is presented by Sunset Lake CBD, a farm that originally started as a dairy farm producing milk and cream for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but they've since diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. You got to check their products out. This is the highest quality CBD, super nice packaging, obviously really nice quality products themselves. I've been using the muscle rub when I have sore muscles. Feels fantastic, smells great. Really, really nice to be able to use that instead of, taking Tylenol or something like that. And you can save on Sunset Lake CBD products right now. You just got to go to sunsetlakecbd.com, use coupon code UPSHOT, and you will save 20% off your entire order. Joining us now on the Upshot is the Disc Golf Pro Tour Europe Media Director, Juha Kytö. Juha, great to have you back on the program. I feel like every time we've had you on, your title has been a little bit different. So you're now heading up things for the media side of DGPT Europe. I guess just first and foremost, as we kind of get ready to really rock and roll with the Elite Series side of things in Europe, how's everything going here in 2024?
Yeah, thanks for having me here again, and it's great to be here telling the story of what we are kind of writing here, the history in Europe. And like you said, it's starting this weekend to tomorrow, Copenhagen Open. I'm actually here outside, just next to hole 1 in this. It's called Rose Haven, so it's Rose Heaven, pretty much in English, and beautiful garden Finally, we have good weather here. Past years, it has been a little bit Danish, if we can say. Like it can change to anything. So it's going to be a fantastic weekend for sure, and a fantastic season overall. But I'm really excited about this weekend.
You have familiarity with running a tour in Europe before. What preparations, or how has that changed as you prepare for DGPT Europe, and what are some things that we can expect through this stretch of the tour?
I have a saying for this, which I have been saying for the team, especially the media team many times, but also like Mikko, the tour manager, that we are kind of like doing everything for the first time, but we are still not doing it for the first time. Like I said, we ran the European Pro Tour for a couple of years, and of course we have run hundreds of events. I think it's over 1,000 events already in Finland. So it's not a new thing, but of course now it's DGPT Europe. We are bringing in the standards from DGPT US, especially to these elite events, those 5 ones what we have this season. So there is some so like, of course, the graphics and everything is different, but like otherwise you could expect better spectator experience. Like there is more information going into the spectators. We have of course we have selling tickets and but we have like spectator areas there. You actually get information and you can get the real fun experience in disc golf event, like pretty much any other sports event itself. And then of course for the players there are some changes. Some of them are significant and others are more of like small details that its players can focus on doing what they do the best, which is to play disc golf, and we can focus on what we do the best, is that's running the events itself.
Obviously, we've seen a big change in European disc golf really over the last 4 years. I mean, you think about how things looked before COVID and then how much acceleration there's been towards kind of things looking a little bit more like the US in terms of just the level of quality of the tournaments, the focus on spectators, all of that. And there's been a lot of tumultuous change. I mean, we've had Disc Golf Stream, now that's gone. Multiple production companies kind of churning through different things. The Pro Tour kind of slowly coming in and now seriously coming in. Is Europe ready for this step of now we're trying to make it look basically like the US Tour on a little bit of a smaller scale, of course, but with all of the sort of standardized, I was just looking at ticket prices and things like that. I mean, a lot of it looks very similar to what's going on in the US. Is Europe ready for that?
I will say Europe is totally ready for this. Like regarding tickets, for example, like I said, we have ticketing on all of the elite events and some of the silvers as well, launching soon. This weekend, Copenhagen, 1,500 tickets already. Croc Hall is sold out with the VIPs. Croc Hall was sold out right away. Other events are doing.
Just to note, this weekend's event was free.
That this event was the ticket is free. We were expecting like few hundred people to come, but if we have 1,500 registered spectators already, and at least I assume that most of the people won't register as a spectator, they will just show up. So there might be anything happening tomorrow, and especially on Sunday with the championship moments. So like just based on that, I would say Europe is more than ready for this. Is US ready for that the Europe will take over?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I mean, you watch the coverage and it's like, do people still come to tournaments here? I don't know. I'm excited for the European. I feel like we're going to see some monster crowds this year.
Yeah, it's
What?
especially I'm really looking forward. Of course, this weekend is special because it's the first one. Like this is first DGPT Europe event, first of the season, and everything like like it's always in these productions, everything is exploded like behind the scenes. But then we get them all together, and it's the broadcast is gonna be excellent, and we have more cameras here than we have ever had in Europe. So this is a really special event in that way. And then also the last one on Tallinn, Estonia is gonna be fantastic. Like the venue itself is there. That's the spectator experience. What that team is doing. Splendid job over there.
I just want to jump in front of Josh here, and so the live coverage this weekend, it's not the same crew and team that does the productions in the U.S. So what is that? Who is doing the productions? Is it still Pulsea? And what should we expect from sort of like a camera perspective on the live?
Yeah, we were able to make a quite good merging of the production teams from what we had on Disco Stream and what the DGN used on last season's Euro Tour events. Pulsea is our studio. They are doing a fantastic job once again, like last season. We're gonna see those amazing green screen studios and good replays and everything. On the ground, we have our post-production team is MDG Media. They have done a couple of years already. Great work, always progressing. They just launched new graphics, some learning over there, but it's gonna be fantastic, and that's for free to watch on YouTube for everyone. Then we have our other crew, like roaming cameras. We have some help from PDGA as well, and so that's pretty much the setup over here. And like I said, there is totally separate team on the production than in the US. We have some like technical side help from US just to make like sure that on DGN on the app you will get the notifications and so on. So, but otherwise it's full European team running the show.
Who are the commentators going to be for these events?
This weekend we have Esa-Pekka Tupala, who was doing all of the Euro Tour events last season, and as a color we have Teemu Nissinen this weekend.
Very exciting. How do the purses of these events compare to other elite events? Are you going to meet the added cash minimum that's required of US Tour events?
Yeah, we have a added cash minimum of 25k in euros. I think it is 35 in US in dollars. What was required, but 25k euros, it's what is like 28,000 in US. And
pretty close.
Well, yeah, that's
26,897, almost
Yeah.
27,000.
Yeah. So that's what we have as a minimum, and some events will be higher. If you want to support that, come and buy a ticket and come to spectate on the site. That's the money going into players' pockets.
How is registration handled right now in Europe? I saw when the Pro Tour announced everything, there was like a Euro Tour card that was offered to certain people who finished in the top 30 or something in the EPT, and then there's like the PDGA Euro Tour. It's been muddled the past couple of years, but also the scene is a lot smaller. So is it fairly easy to get into these tournaments right now if you want to play and you're rated, I don't know, for men's players at least 900, or is it actually getting pretty competitive to get in, especially for the tournaments where a lot of US players are coming over?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty difficult to sign in especially for the elite level events. Some of the silvers were a little bit easier to get into, but for example, this weekend in Copenhagen, there's 50 over 1,000 rated players, which is, the European Open have had more than that. And So it's pretty impressive. And if I remember correctly, this Copenhagen has the weakest field of them all. So that's kind of the level.
More and more
yeah,
Americans are coming over for the later ones. Yeah.
Who are some Europeans that you think might have the opportunity to really kind of break out during this tour? Perhaps they don't come over to the United States, but you think that they really have an opportunity to shine playing in this stretch of European events that maybe whose names we may not be as familiar with?
I could pop up a couple of names, mainly, well, compared to me, they're juniors. I'm turning 42 tomorrow, so it's
Happy birthday!
It's
what a way to celebrate your birthday with the start of DGPT Europe
exactly.
official.
I have a birthday story about that. It hasn't always been that good, but yeah, the names I will say some younger players like Rasmus Saukkoriipi from Finland, like super talented, throws, I don't know, 1,000 feet with his forearm. Not really, but close, 700 at least.
He was very fun to watch at European Open last year.
Yeah. From Sweden, Hjalmar Fredriksson, I think 16 or something. He has a good chance to like really rise and shine. I say these type of players that still young. I don't want to say like afraid to go to US, to the big world, but maybe can travel with their friends in Europe, in their home countries, and kind of from there to grow to be the stars over there. Like these type of players are the ones that are going to rise from the shadows of the US stars.
All right, I'm going to ask what might be a stupid question, but if I'm in Copenhagen and I want to go to, let's say, somewhere in Finland, do I fly? Do I take the train? I looked at the driving directions. It seems like definitely don't drive. So, like, how do you get from Copenhagen? Because, like, I feel like Americans don't necessarily know. Like, there's some cities in Europe where it's like you definitely just take the train. But my sense is that you would probably fly from Copenhagen to Finland. Is that right?
Yeah, it kind of depends on Europe where you are. That what is the best way to travel? If you're just a player with your bag and other bag with clothes, then usually flying in Central Europe, trains, even coach buses, and your own car. But then when we go north, the Baltic Sea comes and kind of ruins things, if you want to say, like from how I came to Copenhagen. I left, let's say day 0. I left Finland 4 p.m. I live in Helsinki area. 2 hours I drove to Turku, which is on the west coast of Finland. I took a overnight ferry, which took 11 hours, but it was overnight, so I could sleep there. In the morning, it was in Stockholm.
With your car?
With the car, with the van. It was in Stockholm, 6 a.m. local time, and from there, it's 8-hour drive to Copenhagen. And that's how we get a lot of our like media stuff and so on. If I wouldn't have all of those, it would be a flight, 1.5 hours.
Yeah, Charlie, I looked up Air Baltic flies Copenhagen to Turku for $95 round trip.
Yeah, no, it's so cheap. It's awesome. I looked up so I have a map of all of the DGPT Europe stops, and the Belgian tournament is the furthest west, and then if you look to the furthest east, it's I think the Turku tournament, or I forget which of the tournaments in Finland. And that distance, just for from sort of like the furthest points apart on the tour, just for a U.S. audience kind of to understand the scale here, is about the distance from New York City to Denver. And if you ignore the Belgian stop, then everything's actually pretty compact because it's mostly in Northern Europe, between Copenhagen and Helsinki. So interesting. I've heard they have amazing party boats that go round trip between Helsinki and Stockholm, and people just stay up all night partying.
Yeah, that's both where we came. That wasn't it. It's this one is more of kind of for working people
Commuter.
because starts quite late at night. I think it was 9 p.m. it started, and it's 6 a.m. when you need to get up.
If you're bringing your car on the boat, it's not a party boat.
Yeah, Helsinki, Stockholm. That's the one you're talking about. And when we are leaving Copenhagen, on Monday night we have that ferry ride ahead of us.
They need to make a tournament, like a 2-day tournament thing, where like you take the party boat and you party, and then you play like 18 holes, and then you go back and then you play 18 holes, but it's just mostly for fun.
Yeah, we actually
that's a free idea for.
We've had like with our group of friends, we've had those type of fun tournaments. We leave Helsinki,
love it,
enjoy the boat ride, and then we go to Järva, since it's we can take like a underground metro to the course and play around there, and then go back with the ferry and most enjoyable 18 rounds in a beautiful Järva.
There is no official European Tour Championship. The Baltic Disc Golf Championship will be worth double points, essentially equivalent to an Elite Series, but counts as one of your silvers. In its place, it's been announced that there will be prizes for the top finisher in the DGPT Europe Point Series. What are those prizes in terms of like the amounts? Do we know those amounts yet?
We have been mainly talking about getting tour cards, both to US especially. There are a lot of players who want to go to tour to US, and tour card really helps. So to qualify for that. But then we are hopefully we can finalize it soon. The other expectations there as well, but the tour card to US, and of course the European tour card as well for the players who want to focus on European tour next season. And next season we of course we focus already on the next season, as you probably have saw the 25 bid process is on, so it's also for the events but also for the players as well. Eyes forward.
Will the tour cards be awarded, like, let's say, Kristen wins an FPO. She obviously doesn't need a tour card from the European Tour. Will you go down to the first player who does not have a tour card and award them that tour card?
Yeah, we don't have all the details yet locked in, so no comment.
I was just looking at the Copenhagen Open payouts. 7,600 to the euro, which is a little over $8,000 to the winner in MPO. About 3,800 US to the FPO winner. Those are pretty serious numbers. I mean, I know you just said that the added cash is 28,000, not that much less than in the US. But this field is a lot weaker than what we see in the US. I mean, I'm surprised. I feel like this is probably one of the best payouts we've ever seen at a non-major in Europe. Am I wrong about that?
I think it falls probably being the largest one so far. Most likely It's going to be
until later this year.
Yeah, later this year. But it's like I said, I know in any mean the field is not weak. It's just the weakest of all the comparison here. But it's like I said, it's also, I'm wondering why some of the US players hasn't been coming here since, like they say on my favorite movie, Terminator 2, easy money.
If for people who haven't followed European disc golf before, we have the 5 elite events and then the major. Major probably is one that people have seen, but of the elite events, which course and event would you say the Americans who have never watched Europe should be looking forward to?
All of them.
I love European disc golf.
there
I
is,
can't. It's hard to
yeah,
argue.
there is, I can't pick one or two. Like there is all of the courses are fantastic. They are all different. Like even if we bring in European Open into the same discussion, it's still like all of the courses are different in a different type of park or woods, or like in Tallinn, it's inside of like a closed park with actual high fences. It's totally closed area. In Copenhagen, this park is a garden and it's totally open to anyone. Swedish Open is played more in the woods. Krokholm, an old golf course, just beautiful. Like it's Turku, that's an open park as well, different type of park. And it's like all of these venues and courses itself, they are different, and you can't pick one. Like if we would have a season ticket to spectate DGPT Europe, I would buy that one and see it myself. Luckily, I can be on the lead card on every event.
VIP plus.
Yeah,
That's the perks of the job.
yeah.
All right. This is really just fascinating. I mean, even some of the silvers, like Yarva and Ale, are silvers. These are like legendary courses. So we know that the DGPT, for the world standings, you can carry 3 European events towards your total of 10, I believe, out of the 20 for the season that you carry for your kind of like world standings points. Now, I'm curious if there's been discussion around like, will that number increase over time? Obviously, right now, it makes sense, right? Copenhagen Open, it's a solid field, but it's not amazing. It's not by U.S. tour standards. It's a little bit on the weaker side. Is the expectation that there's going to be so much growth in Europe in the future that we're going to see the European Tour start to become more of like what we focus on for more than just that stretch in July for the major, and it becomes more like a June, July, the whole tour moves to Europe? I'm just curious if there's been discussion about 2025 and beyond on that front.
Yeah, that is a good question. What goes to 25 or even partly for 26? 25, we will have, of course, the Worlds is in Finland, and we have a second major in Tallinn. We will have elite events like the DGPT Europe events, and all of those already gives a lot more weight in the world standings overall. So already next year it's gonna be much more. How many events? That is still a question. Like said, there is the bidding process is on. It was May 18th, so there is like over a week left to leave your bid for the 25 DGPT event, both to Europe and to US. Or if you just have a course and venue that are interested on having an event maybe on 26, let us know. There's a forum for that as well. So just we know that hey, somebody's interested on this, and then it's just about the details after that.
All right. I think my last question is, we have seen some real market softness in the US when it comes to disc golf. Discs are selling at a little bit of a less clip. Obviously, we've seen turnout at tournaments down. How are things feeling in Europe from a kind of overall health of the disc golf market when it comes to, sort of your vantage point into the industry right now?
I'd say it's pretty healthy. Like the COVID burst kind of took our perspective maybe to a wrong level, I could say. Like the sales, I know the disc sales have been down. If you compare it to the COVID era, but it's still higher than before COVID, like much more higher before COVID. So it's, we are still growing, but now again in a healthy level. Like if we'll need to say percent to like 5 to 10% per year, more members, more like people signing into the events. like events wise, like we run hundreds of events in Finland. Like our company, it's those are full, those events. There's more and more people coming PDGA members all the time. DGN is doing great. There's a lot of subscribers. There is a lot of people watching the events. There is like all event to event, the FPO like viewership is higher than ever. It's even more than like there's more people watching FPO elite event FPO than 2 years ago MPO Worlds. So like it's crazy. And why not?
That's crazy.
Yeah, those are enjoyable to watch, especially the FPO. It's just the best.
Yeah, I mean, for Europeans, this is what a season so far.
Yeah.
You know, Kristen, of course, but Evelina's playing great. Niklas gets a win. We've seen, Jakub Semerad up the lead card, kind of in the chase. Has there been some good energy around just being excited about following the Europeans that are making the trip to the US?
Yeah, it definitely has been, I would say, a biggest pleasure in sports that I remember for myself for a long time. Especially, I was in Austin myself when Niklas won. We were there for a couple of weeks to see how the DGPT US operations and media is running, and I was privileged to be right there at the basket when Niklas won the event, and it's one of the best sports moments I have ever had. So it definitely has been fantastic, and we can see it's not only for in my perspective, but we can definitely see it, especially in Finnish social media and discussion forums and videos and like real news media are constantly putting out news about how our boys and girls are playing in the US.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Juha, thank you so much for stopping by. Good luck with everything this weekend in Copenhagen, and we'll be watching.
Thank you.
Juha Kytö with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thanks again to Juha for stopping by. Josh, it really is a new era here in European disc golf. From the clarity of the structure to the payouts to the increased level of media, this is the Pro Tour is putting some serious money into this. There's no question about that.
They absolutely are. And it's interesting because it feels like Europe, where, disc golf in terms of the popularity per capita, as we well know, is leaps and bounds ahead of the United States. But in terms of payouts and stuff, the Disc Golf Pro Tour has really kind of evolved what the professional game looks like. And we're seeing an acceleration of the European side of what was the multiple tours that felt like they were kind of competing, where one was backed by the PDGA and the other wasn't, and the evolution of live streaming and increase of payouts. It's all being accelerated by the Disc Golf Pro Tour creating this unified tour, and now having this European stretch into what I think are going to be indistinguishable in terms of the quality, payouts, and competition compared to the US side.
One thing I will be curious to watch for is how they do with adjusting courses for FPO. Because obviously, if you're not a big follower of European disc golf, there's kind of been an ethos that the FPO should simply play the MPO layouts. I don't really know why that's become such a heavy focus for them, but it's just wrong. UC Meresma is one who was all about this, and they've been really resistant to making FPO course changes, and it's been kind of embarrassing at times with just terrible holes for FPO. So Copenhagen Open, it has a lot of specific FPO tee pads. Let's see how it goes. I think that will be maybe something to look for in terms of, there's probably still some areas for growth there, so just something to keep an eye on. we were talking with Juha off the air briefly just about, I should have asked it on the air about, the 25,000 euro, minimum added cash. Like, where's that money coming from? Because European tournaments have not generally been able to kind of pony up that kind of money towards payout or anything close to it. And he did say that, like, getting sponsorships has been a little bit difficult because of how late everything has been in the process this year. Kind of like finalizing doing DGPT Europe and the consolidation of everything happened late last year. So it sounds like basically the tour is backstopping a lot of this, especially for a tournament like Copenhagen where tickets are free. And we'll get into that. So let's start with the basics. Okay. Let's just start with the basics. What is the tour? Where are these tournaments? So if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to put up a map. I made a Google map of the locations. For the most part, these tournaments are happening in Nordic Europe. We did have the Belgian Open, which was a silver last weekend. Teemu Lampinen and Anneli Togias-Manista took it down last weekend. Relatively weak fields. But that's basically the only tournament that's happening in what you might consider Western Europe. Everything else is in Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Estonia. So you can take a look at the map. It's fairly compact. It's like so much more of a reasonable tour than what the U.S. players have to go through in the gigantic United States. As I mentioned with Juha, right, the longest distance between, right, if you look from Belgium to the Heinola in Finland is about the distance from New York City to Denver. So that's kind of how compact things are, and that Belgium tournament is kind of a big outlier. So the Elite Series are Copenhagen Open, Turku Open, which is in mid-June, Swedish Open in late June, Krokol Open in Norway in early July. Then, of course, you have the European Open in Nokia, Finland, middle July, and then the European Disc Golf Festival in Tallinn, Estonia, at the end of July. So those tournaments, specifically Krokol, European Open, European Disc Golf Festival, are going to be the ones where we're going to see a lot of American players and kind of what look like full Elite Series events.
Yep.
There's also a slate of silver events, and those are Belgian Open, Norway Open, Heinola Open, Ale Open in Sweden, Järva Open in Stockholm, and then the Baltic Disc Golf Championship in Estonia, which serves as a sort of quasi-European finale that's worth 2x the number of normal silver points.
Which essentially means it's worth its value in terms of an Elite Series event for the European point structure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? Remember, they have a separate European scoring system from the world scoring that is used, that we look at when we talk about the DGPT standings. So in Europe, they have the best 4 out of 6 silver events go towards your standings, and those are worth 50 points for a win. Then the Elite Series, which are worth 100 points for a win, you get the best 3 out of 5. And then the Major is worth 200 points, double. So that's all basically exactly how we've become accustomed to it in the U.S. as well.
Right. So maximum point value of 750 points based on what you can carry, available drops, etc. But for reference, when we look at, as we go through, keep in mind like that number close to 750 is how well a player is doing.
Yes. Over in the main standings, you're allowed to carry 10 of your top 20 DGPT events towards the total points, but only 3 of those can be from Europe. So you can't go play all 5 of the Euros and carry those 5. You can only keep your best 3 from Europe, and then the other 7 have to come from the US. So that's kind of the basics of how the points work.
Right. If there's a possibility that players like Nicholas Antila, for example, could very well carry a couple wins and podiums over in addition to what he already has. And like Nicholas could be very, very reasonably a top 3 player at the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship.
I completely agree. I mean, he's going to be the clear favorite this weekend at Copenhagen.
Yes.
And that will sort of decrease as time goes on and more Americans come over. But, if he doesn't win this weekend, I think it will probably be considered a disappointment, considering that he's clearly the top-rated player. He's outshone the other European men all year for like 2 or 3 years at this point. So we'll get to our picks in a little bit. Josh, I think it would be good to talk a little bit about the registered players for these tournaments. So who's actually playing?
Yep.
At Copenhagen, there are no American women, and the only notable American men are Paul Ulibarri and Greg Barsby. So otherwise, it's most of the top Europeans, although no Kristen, no Henna. Evelina is playing. And then on the men's side, it's basically all of the top European male players.
Yeah. For reference, at the Copenhagen Open, you have 8 players who are rated 1020 or above on the MPO side. And
let's run them down.
Okay, let's do it.
Go ahead.
All right, Nicholas Antila, man, let's see. I think all the names are pretty easy on that one. Thank goodness. Nicholas Antila comes in at your top-rated player at 1042. Lauri Lehtinen at 1031. Though Lauri has taken some time off tour, he had a pretty poor showing at the Belgium Open. We can talk more about that in picks, but question mark definitely on Lauri. I don't feel like Lauri is the second best player
Not
at
right
this
now.
event. Yeah, right now. Jakub Semerad, 1029 rated.
He's been playing good.
Yep. Jesse Niemanen, 1026. Mari Vilman at 1025. Paul Ulibarri and Greg Barsby, both are 1024. And Ani Rusanen?
That's it.
Is at 1020. So there's your 1020 and above crew. A couple names you might recognize. KJ Naibo playing down at 1018, silver lot. So you've got players that you recognize, but those are the top tier, I would say, of your players. Over on the FPO side, Evelina Salonen is your top player by a while. Heidi Leine is at 967. Silva Sarnen, 953. Annika Christiansen. Sorry, it's Annika Sten. It's Annika Sten. Sten.
He is always an S sound, and double vowels extend the vowel sound.
Okay. Annika Sten. My apologies. My column on my sheet was a little short.
I'm going to make mistakes too, but
is 947, and then Rachel Turton at 940. So that's
a solid FPO field. It's really solid.
It is. Absolutely.
Honestly, in some ways, it looks more exciting than what we watched last weekend. Now, as we look ahead, Josh, things start to get more interesting. Mm-hmm. The Turku Open, add Henna to essentially the same field. So it's like all the top Europeans except Kristen. On the MPO side, Calvin Heimberg, Ezra Robinson, James Proctor, all signed up. Chris Clemens, Eric Oakley. So a few more top names, including, of course, Calvin will be big billing. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's going to get a lot of people to come out, buy a ticket, and whatnot. Then you go to the Swedish Open, as we're getting now closer to the European Open, and it really starts to fill in. Calvin, Eagle, Ricky, Paul, James Proctor, Bradley Williams, along with all the Europeans. James Conrad, and Ella Hansen joins on the women's side. Again, these are all registrations. You know, you don't know for sure if that's what it's going to be. Then we get to Krokol, and it basically looks like in a U.S. Elite Series. Gannon, AB, Isaac. On the women's side, Kristen is back. Paige Pierce. So that's kind of like the lead-in to European Open, which, of course, is going to be packed.
And that is largely because when you look, you still have at Swedish Open takes place after Preserve. So it looks like you have some of those players who will either be skipping Preserve for travel or will be coming over right after the Preserve. And then once Des Moines happens, you don't have another DGPT event until Ledgestone in August. And so that's why Krokol and the European Disc Golf Festival, in addition to the major, obviously have the large fields, because those 3 events are going to make up kind of a smaller European chunk that players could come play without missing any United States events.
Yeah, and then if you look at the European Disc Golf Festival, it's even better, because the people who decided not to come over until the European Open are mostly sticking around to play that tournament because of what you just described. You're already there.
Might as well.
You get to go to Tallinn and play in this what looks like it's going to be an amazing tournament. We'll talk about it more in a second. So that one's packed. I mean,
you have everybody.
You got everybody, basically.
Like in the, I pulled the registration for the top guys braided above 1020, and I mean, you have half a dozen Europeans in that list, and then the rest are there's like 28 American men rated above 1020 in that event.
I mean, I'm sure if we went with a fine-tooth comb, we'd find some people who are not going to go to Europe at all. But for the most part, anybody of relevance is going to be playing at that tournament.
The one person who I have a big question mark about, and I'm going to check the European Open registration really quick. I don't see Chris Dickerson.
I doubt he goes to Europe.
I doubt he goes to Europe as well.
He went last year, right?
I thought so. That's why I kind of expected him, but I'm not seeing him on the other events here. My
guy, Chris Dickerson, would prefer if the whole tour was just in Tennessee. I mean, this guy, you know what? It's fine. I got nothing against that. He skips a West Coast swing. He doesn't like Houston. He's signed up for European Open, though.
He is signed up for European Open. That's what I was just about to say.
Pop out. He's like, I'm good. I don't know what's going on over there.
Yep.
I'm taking my private jet to Nokia, and then I'm getting out of there.
And then he's done. Pilot Sam's taking him. So,
hey, good for him, though. He's going to play. I mean, that's the one you got to play.
It is.
And you know what? Maybe he'll still decide, hey, you know what? I'll stick around for a week. I'll play Tallinn, a city that I really want to visit. If I can find a way, it's not going to happen this year, but at some point, I want to go over to that Tallinn tournament.
It looks fun. Isn't that where they're hosting the major next year?
That is. So why don't we talk about that, right?
Yeah.
We've got a couple things going on that are worth talking about for this year. So European Open is not just going to be played at the Beast.
Correct.
We have 2 rounds at the Nokia Disc Golf Park and then 2 rounds at the Beast. That is because they are essentially setting up for running Worlds next year. Mm-hmm. Because remember, the World Championships will be in Nokia for 5 rounds in 2025. The Tallinn tournament is going to be a major. It's not going to be called the European Open, but it will be the sort of de facto European major next year. So this year is kind of like the tune-up for them to run the major the year after. So we're going to have essentially back-to-back majors. I think, did we get the dates on those yet? They're not going to be more than 2 or 3 weeks apart.
Yeah,
it's going to be kind of a funky calendar for that reason.
I think that there's like a week at least gap, maybe 2 at most, like you said, but they're not back-to-back weekends, that's for sure.
Listen, you go over, you play the Worlds, you sauna. 7 days of sauna. Okay? And then you play the other major.
Do you take a putter in the sauna with you? You know, like
maybe. You got to make sure you choose one in the right plastic, or it's going to gummy itself. So that's kind of a big thing. All right, like this is a big year for European disc golf.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about tickets. Historically, European disc golf has been free to spectate, including at the major, where they have thousands and thousands of people at European Open every year, and it's all free. It's been free.
Yep.
That is changing. Okay. Now, as noted, the Copenhagen Open is free. Perhaps in part because it, as Juha mentioned to us, it's being held in essentially a public place.
Right.
So they might not have been able to ticket it if they wanted to.
Same reason why European Open has been free in the past is it's an open park that they are not allowed to control entry to. So it would make sense if that's the reasoning here.
Right. Notably, we haven't mentioned this yet. All of these Elite Series events are not on the same weekend as a U.S. Elite Series event. So you don't have to choose about what you want to watch or what you want to pay attention to. Like this weekend, it's Copenhagen Open. So if you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit. I want to get into watching the European disc golf. And it is nice in a way. You wake up in the U.S., you can, depending on where you live and how early you get up, maybe you can catch the end of the FPO round, or you can watch the highlights or the post. And then, the MPO is teeing off 10 a.m. Eastern or something, 9 a.m. Eastern. So you can watch while you're at work. So it's a great chance to get in, and because you're not going to miss anything from the U.S. side.
And I'll also say, Charlie, I've done this a couple times before, but if you watch the live coverage from rounds that are already completed, so for example, FPO, let's say you wake up and just start with FPO, you can skip all the ads. You can skip the downtime. Like if there are backups, you can just kind of skip through. It can condense that broadcast by almost an hour if you're able to, if it's already completed and you're just skipping through the fluff.
And you could just watch the back nine. Let's be honest. All right. So tickets. Back to this. Most of these tournaments are selling tickets. Mm-hmm. General prices. I'm not going to go too specific or all of them because it's kind of a little too much nitty gritty, but €8 to €15 for a day pass for general admission. If you want to translate to dollars, add about 10%. VIPs are 30 to €50. 3-day VIP passes are €100. Very similar kind of structure to what it is in the US, where like if you have a VIP, you can follow cards. Then Krokol Open, specifically, I want to note, which is in Oslo, Norway, has already sold out pretty much all of their VIP, and I think maybe even some of the GA tickets for like the final day. Like it's already sold out. That tournament doesn't happen until July 12th. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be refreshing.
It is. European Open, I thought this was very interesting. If you want to watch at the Beast on the weekend, you can get in for free.
Okay.
If you want to watch at Nokia Disc Golf Park on Thursday and Friday, you got to pay $17.50 for a ticket. If you want to be able to follow holes 4 through 8 at the Beast, you have to pay for a GA ticket, which is €11. But you can get in free if you want. It's $50 for a VIP ticket, and if you want a weekend-long super VIP that lets you like get in super close and get food and disc and all that kind of things, sure, it's €200 for the whole thing. Interesting hybrid model, Josh. I think they're going to do really well. They're going to have the big crowds because it's still free on the weekend, mm-hmm, but they're also going to be able to sell useful VIP tickets to people who want a better experience.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, this is exactly the model that we talked about in the discussion about giving away free tickets, is having free zones, essentially, or in this case, ticketed zones that you're purchasing for in order to gain extra access. I'm excited, Juha talking about the fact that there's already 1,500 people registered for Copenhagen, and that's like not even considering all the people who are just planning to show up and didn't realize that they needed to register. This could be better attended than any of the US events outside of the majors, like on the first week of the European tour.
It's possible.
It's crazy.
I don't know how many tickets they've sold. I don't know how many tickets they are able to sell.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
I mean, European Open should probably be the most attended tournament of the year.
Pretty typical, though, isn't it? That's the case. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Does Worlds get there? East Coast Worlds this year, very populated part of the U.S. Yeah. Easy to get to. You can take a train. Easy to fly. You can drive from basically the entire East Coast. It is not in Upper Vermont.
Right.
And there were a lot of people there last year.
There were, yeah.
But I mean, Smugs is not exactly easy to get to. It's like an over 6-hour drive from New York. This, being in sort of central Virginia, I mean, like, easy drive for everybody. Yeah. So I think we're going to see like monster turnout at Worlds. Will it beat European Open? I don't know. Maybe not.
can be interesting to see. That's for sure.
Being able to go free on Saturday and Sunday, that's huge. And talk about you don't need to buy a ticket. I mean,
No.
unless you're desperately interested in following holes 4 through 8, man, there's a million places on that course to go post up and just watch and enjoy. Okay. Euro Disc Golf Festival. This is the one that follows the European Open. It's in late July in Estonia. So this was where they had the European Championships last year, Josh. And remember, Kristen gets that super emotional win when she just played so horrible in the final round after building a giant lead and like barely clings to victory, and like outpouring of emotion in this like kind of spectacular venue. They have like this huge amphitheater seating area with a basket in front of it, and it's kind of a wild scene.
It is.
And this tournament is getting bigger and bigger. They're like making it a full-on come out for what is legitimately a festival. And they just announced, Josh, on Wednesday before the event, they're going to have this Disc Golf Superstar Challenge. So they've announced that Kristen, Evelina, Simon, Ricky, and 4 other pros are going to team up and battle in distance accuracy and putting. €5,000 prize pool. And they're going to have this guy, Carl Erik Taukar, and his band play. This dude was like the runner-up on Estonian's version of American Idol. He's like a big deal. He won Best Album a few years ago.
Wow, all right.
In the Estonian Music Awards. He's like a legitimate pop star.
That's well.
So he's playing.
When you've got Kristen, who's a legitimate athlete, like
She's
athlete star, yeah,
it's
of course the view.
I think this could be amazing. And remember, this is where the major will be next year.
Right. I'm so excited for that.
So we'll see how that all goes. But I mean, there's been bus stop advertising for this tournament for over a month in Estonia. I've seen some pictures online.
Not until late July, August.
Like they are legitimately marketing it.
It's going to be incredible.
And it's Delphi Presents. What is Delphi?
I'm not sure. I do see that at the bottom of this press release about the Superstar Challenge, it says it's at the iconic Tallinn Song Festival grounds. So like this is a venue that people are going to be familiar with.
I think Delphi is like a news organization. It's a media company.
This is going to be incredible.
It's going to be incredible, right? Like I don't know where Delphi fits in the landscape of newspapers in Estonia, but it's one of the most popular websites among Baltic users, according to Wikipedia.
All right.
I'm telling you, man.
Not sure what that means, but
things are happening in Europe.
It's happening.
All right. So I think that gets us to the Copenhagen Open now.
Yeah, it does. I think so.
Let's talk about this weekend's tournament.
One other thing, Charlie.
Sure.
There is one thing that we forgot. Given that these are on off weekends from the Disc Golf Pro Tour,
yes.
and they are Elite Series events,
they are.
We will be making picks for all these events. We'll be doing tournament previews with going over some of the course things, who's registered, what to expect, and we will be doing rapid reacts. I'm going to apologize right now to our European listeners. It probably will not be happening right at the end of the MPO round. It's probably going to be later.
Realistically, that's the middle of the day on Sunday. It depends on the weekend, I think, for me and Josh. But
well, it's at that point, it's just I won't have had time to watch FPO. Right. Like, so in order for us to watch both the FPO, MPO, it probably will be a little bit late. You may be listening to it on Monday. Very sorry for that. But we're going to do rapid reacts for all these events as well.
We will do what we can to have it at a time that is still accessible to those of you living in, Estonia and Finland. We will try.
We will do our best.
But we will not succeed every time. That is for sure.
But we will have rapid reacts for all these events. We will have
rapid reacts.
Yes.
I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. These tournaments, the course quality in Europe is just way above what it is in the US.
It is.
Just is.
Yep.
Just is. I played Yarva when I was over there in Stockholm.
I bet that was incredible.
It's incredible. I got destroyed by the course, but it was awesome.
That's so cool.
And Yarva's not even on the Elite Series.
Right.
It's a silver.
It's silver. Uh-huh.
Okay. Copenhagen Open.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about it. It is about an 8,000 to 9,000 foot course, park style. There are some wooded, very, very wooded holes, but there's also a lot of parky style, throwing alongside trees through a gap, but then out into a field type of shots. And as noted, it's mostly Europeans. Nicholas Antila, your top-rated player in MPO. Evelina Salonen, your top-rated player in FPO. And as we heard from Juha, 1,500 free tickets have been quote-unquote sold. That's a lot of people. We'll see if everybody shows up. Obviously, it's easy to buy a ticket and then not come.
Sure, especially when it's free. Yep.
Have no skin in the game. Yes.
Yep.
But I'm sure it's going to be well attended. They said there were only 200 or 300 people who came out last year, so we're talking about 5x at least in terms of spectator interest, and that doesn't include walk-ups. So we should see a pretty cool spectator experience out there.
Hey, Charlie, I got an over-under for you.
I'm ready.
Over-under 0.5 umbrella gates this weekend. Listen. I think spectator management is going to be a legitimate concern here. If you're talking about,
it's such a change.
Yes, properties that are having 5 times the people that they're used to having, there are going to be unforeseen problems that are going to be very. I'm concerned about the spectator management. I am not going to lie.
Understandably. Kind of some weird holes. There's some cool looking stuff. Just kind of perusing the caddy book. A few double mandos. I think the MPO course will be pretty well tuned. I'm a little concerned about the FPO course. For instance, let's take a look at hole 18. For the men, it's a 1,073 foot par 5. You kind of throw to a landing zone, then you have to throw across an OB kind of, I don't want to call it a river, you're throwing to a separate fairway that's inbounds, and you have to cross over out of bounds. And then it's kind of like a long tunnel-y up to the basket through some trees. The FPO hole is the same tee pad, same basket. They made it a par 6. How do you feel about that?
Not good, Charlie. I don't feel good about it at all.
That is not the way. We should not have par 6s. We just shouldn't have par 6s.
Yeah, I'm curious how wide that landing zone is, or not the landing. Excuse me, the OB. We got an email. I'll give credit, and we'll go look in a mailbag episode, and we'll definitely talk about it more in depth later. But quick complaint: the fact that these caddy books have absolutely no helpful measurements, distances, anything on them. I have no idea how long that OB gap is, but it looks kind of far. Like the FPO, like a majority of the FPO field might need to lay up right to the line, and still are going to have to really push a distance shot to get it across the OB. That's it's not cash money.
Let me show you another hole. Take a look at 16. It's a 591 foot par 4 for the men. They start in the woods, and they have to shoot out through a tunnel shot.
Pretty tight looking gap.
Open. Looks tight. And it's not super long. So I assume if you get out clean, you should have a pretty good look at birdie. For the FPO, they put the tee pad outside of the woods, and it's a 470 foot par 4. What? This is going to be potentially, it looks a little bit left to right. So if it's kind of a forced forehand or the flex is a difficult angle to throw, maybe not reachable for an eagle look, but I think Big Arms might be thinking about it. It's probably going to be the world's easiest birdie.
Circle 1 on an eagle hole.
I mean, come on. You're going to have a chip shot, even if you have a weak arm and you can only throw 300 feet for FPO.
Yeah.
You're still 170 in for your second shot on a par 4. That's what I'm talking about. Some of the FPO tuning is not going to be quite right.
Yeah.
And I'm judging based on the caddy book. It's hard to tell how tight the gaps are.
Sure.
maybe I'll change my tune when we see it. But, there's some cool looking holes too.
Yeah. Hole 14, the double Mando, and then a dog leg into a tunnel.
Looks hard.
Looks hard. Looks like a lot of fun.
That one looks so hard. Because it's a par 4.
Mm-hmm.
And really for both, like both FPO and MPO, you're going to have to get up to the gap into that tunnel shot, or I don't think there's going to be a way to get to the basket. It's going to be a really tough birdie, I think.
A lot of holes have like that almost 90-degree turn, or like dog legs. I think it's a way to add difficulty and strategy with minimal like space utilized. Right. So it should be good.
So yeah, it's 8,000 feet for FPO, 8,750 for MPO. Let's get to our picks. First official.
Real fast,
go ahead.
One other thing. Weather supposed to be pretty nice.
I did not check that.
Mid 60s, low 60s for the weekend. FPO going to be teeing off and a little bit chillier. It's supposed to be in the 40s still for FPO tee off, especially on Sunday. But otherwise, like pretty nice weekend. No precipitation expected, which Juha talked about looking pretty nice. So
pretty moderate winds.
Yeah.
Pretty
ideal disc golf weather.
The weather we've had in the U.S. at a lot of tournaments this season.
Yeah.
Let's get to our picks. I think you went first last time, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in first. I'm going to start in MPO. In my 3 spot, I've got Jakub Semerad. I actually think he's a sneaky potential winner here.
I think so too.
He's really been playing with confidence. I think some of the best disc golf we've seen from him over in the U.S., and certainly the field is kind of thinned out quite a bit. He's one of the top-rated players here. In the 2 spot, I've got Yuli. I will also note this is probably the best shot that Yuli's had in a long time to win his first Disc Golf Pro Tour tournament. He's playing pretty damn well right now. He's the best putter on tour, and there's not very many players rated above him at this tournament. There's no reason he couldn't win this.
Yeah.
But I still have Nicholas Antila, the top-rated player here.
That's one reason.
That is one reason, is that Nicholas is there. And after a little bit of a slump following his win, Nicholas has looked quite good again, and I expect him to play well.
Over for my MPO, I also I went with Mauri Vilman for the 3rd place. He is the winner of the Copenhagen Open in a playoff last year.
Against a weaker field, it's worth noting.
A much weaker field. He is 17 points, rating points behind Nicholas. He's 1025 rated. But it's one of those like picking players who play well at certain horses for courses. So give me Mauri. We've seen him play well before, and I like him for a podium spot here. There's not too many players ahead of him. In my 2 spot, I have Jakub Semerad. All the same reasons. Definitely could be a winning potential. But for my winner, I also picked Nicholas Antila. He's 11 points ahead of Lauri Lehtinen, who is not pickable right now, which means he's 13 points ahead of Jakub Semerad in 2nd place in terms of rating. Nicholas should be the heavyweight favorite for this event. Jump over to the FPO. I didn't actually intend to do this. When I was looking at FPO registration, I made this pick and then actually went and looked at how she finished last year. I accidentally picked Katie Alsalu, who won this event last year as well, again against a weaker field. But my gut instinct that I think Katie's game looks pretty good here, based on the caddy map. She won by 7, or the course map in the caddy book. She won by 7 strokes last year. Heidi Leine and Silva Saarinen were both in the field. Silva did not win this event before then going on her heater where she won basically everything else. And so, she did beat some of the people that you got in the field here. I've got her in my 3rd place. In my 2nd place, I put Evelina Salonen. I'm not picking Evelina to win this event, despite her being the highest rated player by over 14 rating points. I have, for my winner, Silva Saarinen. I think she just has been playing so well, and she thrives in Europe. I think she's going to be an auto podium for most of this stretch, and I've got her to win for this weekend.
Wow. All right. Bold pick. Not taking Evelina. A couple of pronunciation notes. Heidi Line,
Haiti.
not Heidi.
Okay.
Haiti. And it's Alsalu. Generally remember that the emphasis in, let's say, Baltic last names is going to fall in the first syllable every time. It's an uncomfortable thing for American speakers.
Okay.
We're all working on it together.
Yes, we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna be doing my best.
Esa-Pekka sent out a very helpful pronunciation guide to the rest of the DGN commentators. So I've been taking a look at that, and I'm sure I'm still blowing some of these names, but we're all going to work to do a good job, and hopefully people will stop trolling me about the correct pronunciation of Tatar. It's correct. Get over it. All right. Anniken Sten is the first up on my podium in the 3 spot. Obviously, she coming off the Disc Golf Pro Tour win the last time we saw her play. Awesome performance. Went head-to-head with KT. Didn't back down. And, I think this course seems to set up pretty well for her game. It's not super long. I don't feel like max distance is like a super big part of what's going to make you successful here. So I got her on my podium. Silva Saarinen is in my 2 spot. I really thought about Laine, but I just don't know if the course fits her style that well. So I took her off. I put Silva in, but I still have Evelina in the 1 spot. And it's because Evelina's gap hitting and like just overall throwing accuracy this year has been on another level, and the putting has been good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's holes that she's probably going to be able to potentially get an eagle look. I think there's going to be holes that only she can get to because there's still some that are ultra long, like 18. That's going to be an Evelina hole. Other players may struggle on the par 6. So those are my picks. Anniken, Silva, and Evelina.
I'm excited.
Kind of shocky taking the top-rated player.
I mean, yeah. I think this will it'll evolve as we get to watch some of these players. It's hard to pick when you haven't seen courses, haven't seen these players as much. Yeah, but I'm excited to watch it.
All right, well, let us know your thoughts on the European swing. What you're thinking about? Are you excited to follow the European events? Do you not care because the Americans aren't there? How much tuning into the live coverage are you going to do? What do you think of the live coverage? It's basically a whole different crew. I mean, it's still on DGN, but it's not the same production team at all from the U.S. crew. So let's see how it is. Let's compare and contrast. And so it all starts tomorrow on DGN. That is going to do it for this edition of The Upshot. Join us on Sunday when we rapid reacts to the Copenhagen Open. And we look forward to seeing you there and in the Discord over the weekend. Shout out to all the Europeans who are like, finally, we can watch tournaments at normal times. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.